Hello guys, today it is our first video of linear algebra course. Before starting this video, I wanna discuss about the topics that we are gonna learn today. We are gonna learn what is a linear equation, what is a linear system, what is our conditions for an equation to be linear or not linear, and moreover we are gonna learn to write linear systems in a matrix form, and what is a matrix and what is the purpose of this linear algebra course. We are gonna talk about these topics briefly, and after that we are gonna write a few examples to make it easy to understand. And let's start. Firstly, what is a linear equation, and how can we specify a linear equation, if it is a linear or not linear? If we have only the terms that doesn't include power, for example, this term includes a power, it is x squared. If we have this kind of terms in our equation, it is not linear. It is our first condition. We are not gonna have any power in our equation. For example, we can use this x in a linear equation. It will not disrupt our equation. And our second condition, two terms can't be multiplied by each other. For example, if we have y and x in our equation, if there is a term like that, again we can't say it is a linear equation. It is our two main conditions for an equation to be linear or not linear. Let's give a few examples to make it clear for you. It is a linear equation because it satisfies our first condition. We have no any power in our unknowns, and we have two unknowns, x and y, and they are not multiplied by each other. That is reason it is a linear equation. Again, it is a linear equation because we have no any power and x and y is not multiplied by each other. We have no any restriction. We can use as much as we want unknowns, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter, but our two conditions are here, and they should satisfy these two conditions to be linear. We explained what is a linear equation. Let's talk about linear system. We wrote two equations here. When we look at only one first equation, it is a not linear system. To have a linear system, we should have two equations or more than two equations together. If we look at these two equations, they are making one linear system. We call that it is a linear system, and we are always trying to find solution in a linear system which can satisfy two equations together. As we learned before in our schools, we know a method. We are multiplying one equation with a number, and we are summing it with another equation, and we are trying to get rid of in one unknowns, and we are finding the another unknowns. It is a useful method if we have two unknowns, two equations, three unknowns, three equations. But if we have a lot of equations and unknowns, it is really difficult to use this method, and we are getting confused. That is the reason mathematicians were looking for a useful method for many unknowns and equations, and they invented this linear algebra course. The linear algebra is dealing with finding solutions, linear systems, and linear equations. We can make another things. We can use linear algebra for another purposes too, but it is main idea finding solution for linear equations. And it is very useful if we have, as we said, if we have a lot of unknowns and a lot of equations in a system, because then we are using some methods to make it easy to solve. We learned what is a linear equation and what is a linear system, and we said what is linear algebra course purpose. And now we are gonna introduce matrices. Matrice is a way to write this equation. It is shown like that, and we are writing numbers here. For example, let's suppose there is numbers like that in this matrix, rows and columns. It is written like that. First of all, we should write the number of our rows and this sign. After that, we are gonna write our column numbers. Let's try to give another example to make it clear. Here, our number of rows is 2 and our number of columns are 3. It is written like that, and we are showing a matrix with a letter. We can say it is a matrix, and we are writing it like that. As we learned 2 times 3 rows and columns numbers. We are using matrices to make it easy to solve these equations, and now we are gonna learn how to write an equation in a matrix form. Let's take this linear system and try to write it in a matrix form. We should take our coefficients in our equations, and by the way, rows are representing the number of equations and columns are the number of unknowns in our matrix. We are looking first equation. We said it is a row and it will be our first row. We are gonna take the coefficients from this equation. They are 1 and 3. And let's look at the second equation. It will be our second row. We are gonna again take the coefficients of this equation. They are 2 and 4. And we wrote a matrix for this linear system. And now we are writing our unknowns like that, vertically, and equal our answers in our equations. As you see, we wrote a matrix system for this linear system. It is the main idea of matrices. Let's say it is a matrix and it is our unknowns. We can show it as X and it will be B. Let's say they are the answers for these equations. It will be shown like that: AX equal B. It is the representation of linear systems in a linear matrices. It is a matrix that describes this linear system. And let's try to solve more examples to make it more clear. Let's say we have this linear system. As we learned before, let's try to write it in a form of matrix. Take first equation, coefficients 2, 1, and the second equation, minus 1 and 1, the coefficients of second equation. We wrote it again in the form of matrix. And let's right now write the matrix for our unknowns. It is equal 5 and 2. As we learned in the previous example, we are writing our linear system in this form, and it is coefficient matrix, unknown matrix, and our answers. We can show this linear system like that. And there is another way to show this linear system in matrices. It is called augmented matrix. We are gonna ignore this side. We are gonna rewrite our matrix, again the coefficients, and we are using dots to separate these two sides vertically, and we are writing here our answers 5 and 2. It is called augmented matrix of this linear system. And let's observe another example to make it more clear, to simplify it. And we are gonna use two unknowns and two equations. It will be different, but the main idea is same. We are writing in the matrices. Firstly, let's try to show in this way. Take first equation and the coefficients of first equation in the first row. 2, 1, minus 2. And the second equation, coefficients are 1, minus 1, minus 1. And the last third equation, coefficients are 1, 1, and plus 3. Here our coefficient matrix. And right now our unknowns are 3, x, y, and z, equal our answers. And again we are showing this matrix with x, and it is b. We can show this linear system in this form, and let's write it in the augmented form. Again, take the coefficients, separate them with dots vertically, and write the answers. It is augmented matrix. We learned how to write linear system in matrix forms. Right now we don't know what are we gonna do with these matrices. We are gonna use some methods, and we are gonna make some operations in these matrices to reach our solutions. But in this video only we learned how to write linear systems in matrix forms, and you can solve examples by yourself about this. In the next video we are gonna look which operations we can use in these matrices. There are a few operations we can implement, and in today's video we talked about the topics, and the video is over. And I am gonna write one system. Try to write it in this matrix form. and the augmented matrix of this system by yourself and learn if you are able to write it in matrix form. And today's video is over. See you in the next video.